Hi, today I'm doing a flip through for you of the World History Detective, which is the history curriculum that I'm assigning my 10th grader next year. I'll also share with you how I'm planning to flesh it out so that it's a full year's credit or full credit for him for his transcript. Now, if we haven't met, my name is Leslie Maddox. I'm an engineer turned homeschool mom, and I have three boys. My oldest will be 15 next month, and then my younger two are 12 and 10. We also have some special needs in our homeschool. And for us, what that means is that it works better for us if my kids can work independently a lot of the time. That they far prefer that, and it works better for them. So for curriculum, that means that I'm looking for resources that have very clear and specific instructions, and also that's highly visual. That works better for them as well. And then for my oldest specifically, he needs extra work with reading comprehension. All of my kids actually have this struggle where they don't refer back to the text. They read it once and then never want to look back at it again. They just want to try to remember what it says. And I'm like, it's written down so that you don't have to memorize it the second. You can just look back at it. And they all kind of struggle with that. But my oldest especially want to work on that this coming up year where he's having to refer back to the text and get into that habit. So World History Detective, I feel like this meets all of those needs. And I'll show you how. So let's take a look at it. So this is World History Detective from the Critical Thinking Company. I'll put a link to that down below. It says it's for ancient and medieval civilizations, and it's award-winning. The grade range is 6 through 12 plus. I would say for any curriculum companies, grade range or age range, to kind of give a side eye to it, you need to look at it yourself to determine what the true grade range is. Don't just take that as gospel. I have a sixth grader this year, and I don't know. This might be a little bit overwhelming for him. But then again, you might have a sixth grader that does wonderfully with it. So, this is just a guideline, is what I'm trying to say. The way, like what my grandfather used to say about red lights in Puerto Rico. It's just a guideline. So, anyway, let's dig in. Let me turn the light on so we can see this a little bit better. Okay. So, notice it's a pretty thick book. And let's take a look at it. It's $36.99 is I think what I paid for it on the website. And you can get, this is obviously the physical book, but you can also get an ebook. But what I noticed is that they're the same price. They're both $36.99. So think about how you want to use this. If you want to use maybe a binder system for your kids' school, then you might want to get the ebook, especially if the method you want to use for teacher books or teachers' manuals, instructional books is digital, then you may want to get the ebook. But remember that there would then be the cost of printing everything. This time around, I usually get the ebook. This time around, I thought, I'm just going to get the physical book, and we're going to switch to more of a checklist, like a purely checklist system next year instead of partly digital. But then I remembered, oh, well, crap. I always like my teacher's manuals to be digital. And so you see here the answer keys in the back. I'm either just going to bite the bullet and buy the ebook, which means having paid for it twice, basically, so that I have all the content in my teacher's manual or on my iPad, or I am going to take out these answer keys. They're perforated here, so that's nice. I may just scan these, and I've talked about this before. I use an app called, I think, Turbo PDF, and I'll make a PDF out of it for my personal use and then upload it to GoodNotes. All right, let's look at number of lessons. So there is a teacher overview here, which we'll look at in a minute. But it covers ancient civilizations, medieval civilizations, and early American civilizations, and 74 lessons. So think about that, 74 lessons. And when you're looking at homeschool curriculum, and this isn't specifically homeschool curriculum, but when you're looking at curriculum, a lot of the time you want to ask yourself, so what do they mean by lesson? Do they mean, like, sometimes a lesson is for a week, And sometimes it's really just a day's work. So we're going to take a look at that, because looking at the 74 lessons, that's not enough for high school for a full credit. That if you add a couple things, could be a half credit, but not a full credit. Also, for us, let's say you use it with a 6th, 7th, 8th grader, you could use this for full. I mean, you notice here that, does it say it on here? No, it doesn't. But it says on the website that it's a full curriculum. And so I feel like that's a little bit misleading. If you were going to use it with a middle schooler with these 74 lessons, I think it will be fine for a full year curriculum, because then you could do history a couple times a week, and that's my preference for the younger grades instead of every day. But if you're using it for a high schooler, you need to really think about it. I'm wondering if they're going to have a second book for World History Detective that goes from like middle civilizations to modern times, and then you could. I think the U.S. History Detective has 2 books that will cover the year, and so I'm wondering if they're planning to do the same thing for like this series possibly, and that would make it a 4 year. But they're not there yet. So let's look at the teacher overview. So, worthy of note, says here that the content skills are based on common state social studies standards for grades 6 and 7. So that should give you an idea of what they're kind of gearing this toward. I think that's their justification for grade 6. But again, you're going to have to look at it to make sure that it fits your grade 6 or 7 kid. What makes this different is the integration of critical thinking into the content lessons, which makes sense. It is from the Critical Thinking Company. And that's actually why I chose this curriculum. And you'll see why in a minute. And then it goes over different aspects of the curriculum and what the lessons might look like. But notice that there are no lesson plans. If you're getting a curriculum geared for homeschoolers, you might find the lesson plans and suggestions for how to space it out, what to do each day. This isn't going to be one of those types of curriculum, And so you'll have to be a little bit comfortable with assigning lessons to your student in the way that you think works best for your families. But really think about it for a high schooler. And I'll just tell you how I'm going to do it. So maybe that'll give you an idea, but you always refer back to state laws to see what's required of you as a homeschooler, and see if this curriculum will support that. All right, looking at a lesson 1, the Fertile Crescent and the Sumerians. So notice here that the paragraphs are all given a letter, and then each sentence is given a number, like in a Bible, like Bible verses. Let's see if I can show this to you. Do you see that? And then there are some drawings. Geography is a little bit of an aspect of this curriculum. And then we have our questions. And here's the critical thinking aspect of it. They are given a question like you might see in another curriculum and asked to choose the correct answer. But then notice which sentence best supports the answer. Do you see that? So they can't just circle whatever. Like, I'm just going to guess. Part of the answer is, okay, refer back to the text. Don't just guess. Refer back to the text and which one of these sentences, put the number here of which one supports the answer that you gave. You gave that answer for a reason. Tell me why. I love that. Now, true reading comprehension is going to be more than this. They'll have to read the text and think it through and put it in their own words, and then come up with their own answer or be able to summarize the text or, whatever. Yeah. There's more to reading comprehension than this, than just picking out which sentence supports the answer. But this is a start. And it directly answers or deals with the issue that I'm having in my homeschool, which is go back and give me the number of the sentence that you say answers this question. Why did you choose that answer? And I'm hoping that by the end or by the time my son's completed this workbook, that he'll be very used to turning back and looking at the text so that that'll apply in other areas, other subjects, other learning, lifelong learning skills, whatever. There are some written answers, what were the three greatest contributions? So this is basically a paragraph. And here's where you'll get a little more reading comprehension, where they need to really go in and like read the whole thing and then summarize it down. I am thinking about making some of these written responses a little more meaty for him, and I think that'll help with the making it more of a full year's credit. If I either make these meatier or even just take a topic from here and say, okay, this week I want you to write an essay where you do a little more research and summarize your references and all that, some essay assignments for this. So I think if you did that plus this workbook, that could get you to like that full half credit for this if you're just going to use this. Some diagrams. I think this works well for my oldest as well. So I like that there's different things. Read the text, refer back to text, find the answer, do some writing, fill out a diagram. And I've been wanting to use this type of diagram for him anyway to help him place things in his mind, to help him remember what he's learning. We have a timeline here, which is nice. I'll have to look to see if I want to do more with that, because, like I said, he needs to really have his learning be more interactive than maybe just looking at the timeline. All right, so that's how this is working. If we look through here, we see it's very similar throughout. This one has more writings, more diagrams, which I love for him. The timeline. I need to look to see what more I can do with those timelines. And some more writing. I love. There are some images here for him to look at. It is black and white. For some kids, they really need to have a much more visual than this. Maybe you could use this and then go and look for maybe videos on some of these topics, maybe once a week. Pick one of the topics being covered and watch a video or find your own images, do your own research. Look it up in Britannica Kids, the Britannica.com, and there's a kids version of it that you can pay a subscription for. And when I look at these lessons, I think that they look like a day's worth of work. So a credit is essentially 1 hour of work per day for 180 days, 180 hours, if I remember correctly. So I think if he, let's say this one on ancient Greece, Minoans and Mycenaeans, I think if he read this and answered the questions and told like where he got his answers and then wrote a paragraph using complete sentences, then that would be about that hour's worth of work. So I'm going to see how that goes. He does have some learning differences, so I may need to adjust for him. If I have to adjust, what I'll probably do is have these written responses be on a separate day. So I might have him on day 1 of a lesson, read it and answer the questions, and then day 2 of this, assuming the next day, continue with this lesson 13 and have him do a written response, and maybe even expect a little more from him for the written response for that second day. So this is one of those things I'm going to have to wait and see. Because of that, I am glad that it's only, 74 lessons. Like, it's not a 4 years worth of lessons, because that gives some flexibility in how we use this. The second day, also, I could just leave it, instead of fleshing out this written response, I could just have him do this and then fill out this concept map the second day as well. And so, I don't know, the more I'm talking about this, the more I'm thinking I might just do that anyway. So we'll see. I'm gonna see what he can do. Again, he has some learning differences, so that's why I'm adjusting it that way. I think a student, a neurotypical kid, um, may be able to just do each of these lessons in one day. So, have you used this? Let me know what you think about that, because I am still trying to plan out how we are going to use this. I do have another idea for fleshing this out that I found on a blog, which I'll link down below so that you can refer to it as well. And so I could give credit where credit is due. And it's an option that could help him earn some college credits. So let me show you my screen so you can see what I'm talking about. So this is the Modern States website that she recommended, and I think this is the course that she's talking about. The Western Civilization 1, Ancient Near East to 1648. Now, the World History Detective book covers ancient and medieval civilization, so this might cover a little bit more than that, but I guess it'll be what will be required to pass that CLEP exam. And notice it says here that it's for 4 weeks and 6 hours a week. And I know my son's not gonna do 6 hours a week. And so I mean I don't think, maybe we'll see. Maybe this is an overestimation, who knows. But just to be safe, I've learned the hard way that trying to rush my kids through schoolwork doesn't help. It only delays things. It just makes things more difficult, leads to overwhelm, and I really need to be careful about that with a couple of my kids especially. So when I see here that this will take 4 weeks, in my head I'm thinking, okay, we're like 8 weeks. That way we're not super stressed out. Um, so that's my plan. After he's done with World History Detective, then I'll enroll him for this course. And that way, even if he doesn't take the CLEP exam, then she would still, I feel like this is still a good year or 1 credit for his transcript. And also, even just for remembering the information, going back over it a couple of times in the book and then later on through this course would help him retain a lot of the information as well, just for life. I mean, how often do you need to know something about ancient civilization? But you never know. So that's my plan. You do have to make sure that you check if you want to have your kids take some CLEP exams. My understanding is that the best thing to do is to check what schools your kids are considering and make sure that they'll accept these credits. It would be nice, a nice bonus for him to be able to get that world history credit. That would be amazing. So this looks like it'll really fit our needs well. But if you're a new homeschooler, this may not be what you want to do. Instead, you might want to see this video that I did recently where I share the curriculum that I recommend for new homeschoolers, because those are curriculum options that taught me how to teach and taught me how to homeschool. So check out that video and hopefully it'll help you out. Talk to you in the next video. Bye-bye.